Lines about the axis of evil. He's now the senior editor of The Atlantic. Also joining us, Iraq's ambassador to the United States, Lukman Faily, and Chief National Security Correspondent Jim Sciutto is with us as well. Mr. Ambassador, first to you. It seemed to me, you heard the President of the United States today. Yes. He effectively was lecturing Nouri al-Maliki, your prime minister, saying you have to bring everyone in Iraq together. This can't just be a Shiite-led government. You got to bring the Sunnis, the Kurds. You got to have some real democracy there. Is Nouri al-Maliki going to do that?
Well, we already have a coalition government. My own foreign minister is a Kurd. The defense minister is a Sunni Arab. So we already have that. But what is taking place is not an internal Iraqi dispute. It's more to do with what your report has said, more or less, which is an invasion from international jihadists.
So why are so many Iraqi Sunnis in the military and elsewhere aligning themselves with this ISIS group?
Well, the situation is this is an international, transnational organization which has been effective in Syria and now is trying to export that to Iraq. We, as Iraqis, will not accept that.
So what will Nouri al-Maliki do in the face of this recommendation from the President? The U.S. is considering military options, but it's not going to do anything unless they get reassurances from your Prime Minister that he will take the necessary steps.
We thank the United States for all they have done. We thank them for all the ongoing efforts, and we will thank them for ongoing support. In that sense, it's not the issue of the Prime Minister only. We have a threat to the whole nation, to the country, and we cannot coexist with ISIL. So in that sense, I think the President does understand the seriousness of the situation and the impact on the geopolitics of the whole region.
Has your Prime Minister invited Iranian Revolutionary Guard troops into Iraq right now?
No, we have not invited Iranian. What we are saying is that we have a strategic framework agreement with the United States. It's our partner of choice. We have an agreement in place that are already being worked. We need to work further, and we need to intensify in depth and in width that relationship.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, I want to bring in David and Jim into this conversation, but let me play a clip. This is the President of the United States on the South Lawn of the White House today. Listen to this.
Okay.
We're not going to allow ourselves to be dragged back into a situation in which, while we're there, we're keeping a lid on things, and after enormous sacrifices by us, as soon as we're not there, suddenly people end up acting in ways that are not conducive to the long-term stability and prosperity of the country.
He's referring to the Prime Minister of Iraq.
And the question is what?
And the question is, if the U.S. goes in a little bit and then leaves, are you just going to go back to what you're doing right now?
As I said, the issue we have is not an internal issue. The issue we have is an impact of Syria. The issue we have is a threat to the region. We have asked for some time that we need to be supported. The U.S. has supported us, but what we need now is an immediate threat.
David, what do you think about what's going on?
The Iraqi government, this Iraqi government, made it clear 2 years ago they did not want American forces in Iraq. They chose Iran over the United States as their provider of security and their patron. That was Prime Minister al-Maliki's decision. Today, now he's in trouble, American air power looks very welcome to him. But at this point, for the United States to go in, it would be rescuing an Iranian client. And the question I think Americans need to ask is, okay, maybe, what do we get in return? And not just from Iraq, but also from Iran.
Because you know the President of the United States said before U.S. troops completely withdrew, he would keep a few thousand there if they would have immunity from Iraqi prosecution, if there was a status of forces agreement that allowed that to happen. But your Prime Minister said no.
Only a couple of months ago, we had an election. 60% of the people voted in the United States, and UN and everybody else said it's a fair election. So we have a democratic process. Changing the Prime Minister is not the issue here. The threat is immediate to the whole country. The political process will be ongoing with the U.S. was there. We hope that will continue with the support. And we also know that this threat, let me repeat that, the threat is immediate to the region, not just to Iraq. It's not just a purely internal Iraqi politics issue.
Jim, go ahead and weigh in.
Please.
Well, I think he's exactly right. There's no question there that this is a regional threat now, and ISIS, frankly, the threat goes beyond the region because ISIS is the #1 magnet for foreign jihadis. U.S. intelligence community warning repeatedly about those jihadis returning home to Europe, and we know there are 50, 60 Americans that have joined the fight as well. You know, this is an example where as Americans, whatever the polls show, Americans would like to not be involved in this part of the world, but the fact is we are involved because the threat emanating from there has a direct impact on the U.S. homeland.
Do you believe these insurgents, these ISIS terrorists, are going to go after Shiite shrines, whether in Karbala or Najaf or elsewhere, to try to simply explode the entire country?
Yesterday they made their first decree in which it said we will flatten any mausoleum, any Shia shrine and so on. They've already made that public. They've already done it in certain places today. The issue we have now is not the issue of internal politics of Iraq. It's more to do with the threat. Our friend here talked about America being there. We know there are European jihadists there. When they want to go back to the United States or to France or elsewhere, what they're going to do.
So what exactly is your government asking President Obama for?
We have never...
What exactly is your government asking President Obama for?
We have never asked for American boots on the ground. We have never asked for combat forces. What we have said is that we need support and strategically in relation to counterterrorism, in relation to surveillance.
Specifically, what do you want?
Surveillance in relation to helping us to have some air supremacy, because we need that.
Do you want U.S. fighter jets to come in and bomb positions of these ISIS forces in Iraq?
As an ambassador, I'm not in a position to highlight the specifics. This is for the military and for the counterterrorism specialists to deal with. What I'm saying is that the support we have from the United States will make the difference. We have the United States, our strategic partner of choice. We don't have that with Iran. So the vacuum is created, will be filled by others.
What do you think, Jimmy? You think the U.S. is going to do what the ambassador wants the U.S. to do?
Well, I think, and the president made a reference to this, that help should be and is dependent on Iraq making concessions, political concessions. And I would ask the ambassador, he says that the government is a multi-ethnic government, and I know that there are some officials, Sunni and Kurds, in senior positions, but the fact is that Sunnis and Kurds do not view the government as inclusive. So my question would be, would Maliki make the government more inclusive in exchange, in effect, for American help now to fight off this ISIS threat?
We just had an election. The votes have just been ratified now at our Supreme Courts. In the very few weeks, within the few weeks, they will start the formation of the government. All these lessons have been learned. Situations are grave. What has to be looked at is what are the immediate threat to Iraq, to the region, to the geopolitics. Let me give you one side of that story. Iraq is a major oil producer. If that production is stopped, or if that funds from that goes to ISIL and others, imagine how much that destruction will make to the global economy. That's where the issues are.
You know, Jim, I'm going to put up on the screen, I want to show the map of where the various forces are aligned right now inside Iraq and in neighboring Syria. Go ahead and explain.
It's important to show our viewers this. I think people are aware that Iraq is multi-ethnic, but you get a sense physically how they're divided up. Shiites largely in the south. In the southwest, you have a Shiite-Sunni mix as you head out towards Anbar province, and then northwest, largely Sunni, and then the Kurds, of course, up in the northeast. And this, we talk about a Sunni corridor here. This has been one reason why ISIS has been able to advance so quickly down towards the capital, because they're coming from Syria, up in the north of the screen, the top part of the screen, through those Sunni areas, through Mosul, down to Baiji, and over to where Fallujah is. They're having help from local tribes, local nationalist groups. So the map, in effect, helping ISIS accomplish its goals.
You heard John McCain, the senator. He told us that he's lost confidence in Nouri al-Maliki, the prime minister of Iraq, and he's a great supporter, a great friend of Iraq.
Look, I think that is the wrong focus from an American point of view. What the United States should be asking for are not internal concessions within Iraq to different power holders. What the United States needs are external concessions from Iraq's main patron, which is unfortunately Iran. It is not tenable that American fighter jets will be delivering ordnance to support Iran's security interests.
And you heard John McCain make that exact point. He doesn't want U.S. involvement if it's only going to help Iran.
Iran has to, if Iran wants, because when Maliki speaks, it is Iran that is talking. If Iran wants this help, it has to ask and it has to pay.
Mr. Ambassador.
Prime Minister Maliki in the latest election had 700,000 votes. He has over 100 seats within the 300-odd parliaments. So he is there representing the democracy of Iraq. The formation of the government may take time. we have an immediate situation. Senator McCain has been a strong supporter of Iraq. We want that support to stay. We appreciate the support we're getting. But let me repeat what we have now. We have a grave situation now. We cannot wait until all the politics is discussed. The threat is an immediate threat. That's what.
How vulnerable is Baghdad?
I will doubt I'm somewhat confident about that. I'm not worried about that specifically. I'm more worried about the Shia shrine being destroyed, which leads to a geopolitical situation. Let me give you one example. Any small impact on Iraq will have an immediate situation in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, immediately. So that's the graveness of the situation.
It's a horrible situation right now, Mr. Ambassador. We hope you'll come back next week and help us better appreciate what's going on.
My pleasure.
David Frum, thanks to you. Jim Sciutto, of course, thanks to you as well. Still ahead.